Come on, I see you, Wile E. Coyote. Roadrunner. There you are. Cautious.
This is indeed a disturbing universe.
Hello, greetings, and welcome. Welcome to the Stereo 999 YouTube channel. I am your host, the artist formerly known as Stereo Steve. And I figured out something to do that'll keep me busy for the next few videos. See, maybe about a month ago or so, a YouTuber named dotsandloops came up with 101 questions. 101 questions, and there was a contest, and I watched a few people just blaze through those 101 questions, to make the deadline. And since I don't give that much of a shit about the contest or anything, but I always like questions though, because that fires my imagination in ways it wouldn't normally go when I'm thinking about record talk. So I kind of saved all the questions, and just when I came up with an answer, I would just scribble it down. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 10 questions per week, and then I'll get on to some other stuff. So I'll always have 10 of these questions to answer. So times when I have nothing, I'll still have some questions. So this is the first 10 questions of Dots and Loops 101 questions. Okay, question number 1, something with Todd Rundgren's involvement. And I could have done, something he produced or whatever, but I thought I would show this. This is my beat up copy of Nas, the second Todd Rundgren and Nas album. And this is a DJ monaural copy, which, long story short, for a time in the late 60s, early 70s, Atlantic was sending mono versions to radio stations. I mean, don't get too excited. They're fold down, which means it's just the stereo channels like combined into one. It's not a separate mono mix. But there's some that if you find them, it's a huge deal, especially like Led Zeppelin and whatnot. But this is one of those fold-down mono pressings of the Nas second album. It's got a white label. It's on the red vinyl. And it's a good record. Forget All About It is a great song. Under the Ice is one of their more hard-rocking songs. But yeah, there's Todd right there. Question number 2. Album title with less than 5 letters. This is going to glare. I'll take it out of the plastic. So, Or by Alexander Skip Spence. Skip Spence was a San Francisco kind of hippie musician. He was in Jefferson Airplane for a minute, and then he was one of the main guys in Moby Grape. And then he had a bit of a mental breakdown, and then when he was released from being hospitalized, he made this very Syd Barrett-y solo album where he plays all the instruments. And it is wonderful if you like that kind of dark, twisted, outsider kind of stuff. Yeah, Or by Skip Spence. Less than 5 letters in the title. Question number 3. A record that you got when you were in high school that you still have. Okay, so I went to high school in the 80s, and high school, as far as my musical taste went, high school was when I was transitioning from the classic rock and hit music and discovering punk rock and new wave and more out there stuff. and one of the early punk bands that me and a couple of my friends did quite enjoy and explore during those years was the Buzzcocks. And this is my same copy of Buzzcocks, Another Music in a Different Kitchen, their second album. I think I heard the song I Don't Mind on KUSF, and found this at the old Clement Street Revolver Records. And this is still that same copy. It's the first full-length album after Howard Devoto left the band, and they got kind of poppy later on, but this is a hard rockin' early punk record. Record you were supposed to like but didn't. Okay, well, before I show this record, a little disclaimer. I do like this record. I think this is a record I'm supposed to love, but I merely like. Because if I really didn't like it, I would probably not have it. But that record would be Heavy Weather by Weather Report. Of course, with the great Jaco Pastorius on bass, and it's a good jazz fusion record. But the thing is it's a little more smooth than I want it to be. You know, and like, you know, you take the jazz class in college and they'll play you Birdland or whatever, and you go, oh, that's kind of nice. But it doesn't really have that Miles Davis influence craziness like the first Weather Report album. It's just kind of smooth. Record you were not supposed to like, but you did like. And this goes back again to the 80s and being into punk rock and new wave. And, you know, there's a lot of channels I watch now, and I really love, where there's people who have a good knowledge of essential early punk, but also have a good knowledge of other kinds of music. But back then it was like a war, and you had to choose a side. You know, you had to hide your Yes or Beach Boys records when your punk friends were at your house. Otherwise, they'd break them in half. And this record, among some of my friends, was a big controversy. They're on a major label now. They sold out. What's going on, man? What about the scene? They're traitors. But I listened to it, and it does kind of, you know, have that 80s curse of an indie band, underground band getting signed to a major label, and suddenly they have that crappy drum sound, and the songs are all just short and to the point to get played on the radio. There's great songs on this record, and, you know, yeah, I'll just say, after listening to certain people tell me how terrible this record was, I didn't think it was that bad when I finally got to hear it. All right, next question. Third Degree of Kevin Bacon. All right, I talked about this before. Kevin Bacon was in the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, and this band, the Old 97s, performed in the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. I talk about that. I talk about this more in depth in an earlier video, so just watch that. First movie soundtrack. Okay, last time a soundtrack question, I picked two. I picked a rock soundtrack and a non-rock soundtrack, but first movie soundtrack I ever had, I was probably 5 years old and hand-me-down from my parents to play on my little box record player, was the soundtrack to Hitari, in which John Wayne goes against a rhinoceros trying to knock over his truck. I don't know if I've ever sat through the whole movie, but Henry Mancini's, one of his most famous songs, Baby Elephant Walk, is on this. And there's some amazing stuff on this. There's some kind of big band jazzy stuff like Crocodile Go Home. There's the long track on the second side, The Sounds of Hitari. But anyway, this is a mono copy with the RCA dog label, which most of the time when you see this record, it's an OG on this label and it's totally destroyed. But this one's in pretty good shape. I also have a stereo copy, and you don't see later pressings of it that often, but this has got the yellow RCA label. For the rock soundtrack, middle school, before high school, when it was okay to listen to classic rock because it was still new, FM, no static at all, FM. This movie was kind of like that book Radio Waves I talked about in my last video. I mean, it was kind of like a long episode of WKRP in Cincinnati. There's a fictional radio station, Q Sky, and even though it's pretty mainstream music they're playing, they're rebellious. They don't want to run commercials for the Army. Their big coup is that their rival station is co-presenting a Linda Ronstadt concert, and they sneak in with remote equipment and broadcast the concert live on their station. Jimmy Buffett's in it, which is the best joke in the whole movie. Oh yeah, I like Buffett's. What are they serving? But this is, yeah, on the original ugly MCA label. It's got a poster too. We never come down to earth. Q Sky Radio. Okay. No static at all. Oh, there's always static. A good $5 record that everyone should have. Well, I did literally pay $5 for this in a store where everything was $5. So, and I've been wanting to talk about this record. This is a compilation kind of similar to those Warner Brothers Lost Leader compilations. It's from 1971. It's called the MCA Sound Conspiracy. So basically, around the time MCA bought up all these other labels like Decca and Uni and Cap, and they all became MCA. But this is a sampler of new releases on MCA records for 1971. Probably the one band you've heard of on here is Wishbone Ash. This record is very cheap, but it has tracks from records that are pretty rare, like the band called Help, Matthews Southern Comfort, which Ian Matthews, a really nice cover of Neil Young's Tell Me Why, Medicine Mixin' by Melissa, who actually early in my YouTube career I posted a track from Melissa, and the woman herself commented on it. In your face, copyright cops. What else? Is Fanny Adams, Chelsea, not the punk band Chelsea, but the band Chelsea that Peter Criss was in before he was in Kiss. Glass Harp, which was the band Phil Keaggy was originally in. So yeah, some really interesting stuff on this record, and if you see it for cheap, it is definitely worth grabbing. Alright, record that defines you 25 years ago. 25 years ago was 1998. Oh my God, that was a traumatizing year. I'm not going to even get into that because then ads for Better Help will turn up. So I'm not even going to talk about 1998, but I will say that the soundtrack for 1998, or one of the soundtracks of 1998 for me was Mezzanine by Massive Attack. And of course I'm supposed to be representing for vinyl, so this is a 12-inch of Angel, the first track. But yeah, Massive Attack Mezzanine just kind of pulsed through that year. Wonderful record, wonderful, probably their best album, you know. I mean, Elizabeth Fraser and Horace Andy both do guest vocals on it. Question number 10. Album that rhymes with orange. Right. All right, 10 years after. Stonehenge rhymes with orange. Stonehenge. This is a good record. This is a little more psychedelic, where most of their stuff is straight up blues. But yeah, this is a great album. All right, that's my first 10 questions, and yeah, all right.
Oh no, you can't leave yet. You gotta have a nice cup of tea with me. Wow. I'm Lewis, the white. You to say I rescued a drowning potato today. Oh, what a shame. So much better when it's practically plain. So drown your it's no fun to eat what you can't even see. So drown your food. Hey, boy. Gimme! Absorbing! Ta-da-da!
Oh yeah, that's just fine. Come on, boys. Just one more time.
Keyboard Cat.
No, it's not.
It's an internet meme. Alright, so earlier, like in January when I did the vinyl tag, there was a question about a hat trick or a trifecta, an album that you have in the three main formats of vinyl, CD, and cassette. But anyway, turns out there are a couple of albums that I do have in all three formats, and for the same reason was that in high school I had the cassette because that's what I found to play in my boombox, and then later on I upgraded. So this is my old cassette of 10 Years After Alvin Lee and Company, which has what might be my favorite 10 Years After song called The Sounds, which you need to hear if you haven't heard. Listen on earphones if it's the stereo version. Anyway, later on I found a vinyl copy with this cover, and it's on the Durham label, or Durham, I'm not sure, whether it's Durham or Durham, but later on, when I worked at Tower Records, I found this version, this CD with bonus tracks. So there's that trifecta. Another high school boombox favorite was the Ramones' Leave Home. This got a lot of wear and tear. This is again blue. You see the blue GRT 8 tracks a lot. This is a blue GRT cassette of the Ramones' Leave Home, and I found this in a bargain bin in a mall back in the 80s when I was in high school. I even made little notes to where the counter numbers were for the different songs. I did eventually find a vinyl copy. I kind of held off until I found one of the originals that had the song Carbona, Not Glue, because later pressings they took that song off and replaced it with Sheena as a punk rocker. But yeah, it's a nice OG copy of this. And then I got the remastered CD. As far as bonus tracks, there is an entire live show. It's a short album, so they were able to fit a lot on a CD. So after the album, there's a B-side, and then there's an entire live show, live at the Roxy, August 12th, 1976. So yeah, I blew it when I was doing the tag. I forgot about these, but here we go. Okay then, that's my video. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, and peace.